What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt White, and today I'm going to give you my thoughts on the new Kenneth Branagh movie for the murder mystery called A Haunting in Venice, which is a direct sequel to The Murder of the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. And this is taking place during post-World War II, where the world's greatest detective, Hercule Poirot, played by Kenneth Branagh, who is living in exile in Venice until he attends the seance during the Halloween night, and someone gets murdered. And now he's going to have to get back out of retirement and crack the case and solve the mystery of the potential suspects and who done it, who is the killer. And this was the film that I did not expect that the Kenneth Branagh was going to make a third movie. I personally was not the biggest fan of The Murder of the Orient Express. I'm someone who was very hyped about it because it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. The trailer looked very promising, but the movie itself was poorly executed and it was a very mediocre murder mystery, which I am someone who is a very sucker when it comes to murder mystery, kind of like the movie Clue that was based on the board game, or with Rian Johnson's first two films with Knives Out and Glass Onion. I thought those movies were brilliant. I loved the scene of who might be the potential suspect, and it keeps us guessing of who is the killer. And the characters is very good on putting on an act and acting all innocent when one of them is guilty. And I love that the world's greatest detective is set out to question everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're innocent or guilty. If there's a motive behind it, I'm going to question you. I'm going to question who is the potential suspect and if you're the killer or not. And then he puts them all in the same room and connects the dots of who is the killer. And I thought that what they did in the first two movies with Murder in the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, I thought it was poorly executed. And I had to watch the Death on the Nile because I skipped out in the theatrical run and I wanted to be prepped and ready for the third installment. And I'm someone that did not like The Death on the Nile. It's another mediocre movie. It is slightly better than the first one, but it's not saying much. I thought you had a great cast, but I thought the character stuff was so caricature, and the when we see who the killer is, it was just so anticlimactic and very like dull. I didn't care. I felt nothing, and it felt like it was just more of a studio-driven gimmick movie instead of a Kenneth Branagh movie. But when you got into with The Haunting in Venice, I thought that the movie itself felt very more like Kenneth Branagh was more hands-on in this movie than he did in the first two. And I'm going to say Haunting in Venice, surprisingly, it was really good. It was a major improvement over the first two films. Yeah, the trailer itself was marketed as like another spooky, like Conjuring or The Nun type of film that we've seen before, and it didn't do the film justice for me. But I thought the film itself was much better than the marketing itself. But if you're someone who is going into this film and expected it to be a straight up horror movie, you're going to be very disappointed because this is not going to be like that film at all. There are a lot of horror elements in it, but they still kept the consistency with the murder mystery aspect and kept the style that was brought back from the first two movies. And I thought that the character progression in this film was so much better and way more fleshed out. Michelle Yeoh, who is the medium, but who is performing the seance, I thought she played it beautifully. I almost bought into it. And the core of the film was really about Kenneth Branagh's character, Hercule Poirot, questioning his beliefs because he lost faith in humanity. He lost faith in God. He lost faith that there's any possibility that there's any spiritual in our world because he's seen a lot of evil in the world with during the war, and he's seen a lot of cases that people get murdered that he's solved many times before during his days. And it was a great character development and a great arc for Kenneth Branagh. I thought he really delivered it. Even if I didn't like the first two movies, I thought he really carried it. He made the character so likable and charismatic and interesting. That's what makes it so good about the character progression. But for this one, the cast members were not treated as like all-star cast that they were just shoehorned in. They actually act like characters. And I almost bought into who the killer is, but then they pulled a 180 on us by the time we get to the third act. Then I was like, oh wow, the plot twist that I did not see coming. I kind of had my suspicion, but I never really believed it at the time. But then when it starts to unfold, it makes perfect sense. And I thought it was very well executed. There were a lot of jump scares in the movie that I thought it worked very well. But the weaknesses of the film that I wish they could have done, I wish they would have been a little bit more horror. because that's what the film was presented, but it was not enough to take me out of the movie. And I love that it's taking place in one sanctuary, and it's taking place in a big giant house in Venice at night, and it really kept you on the edge of your seat, and you feel very claustrophobic by the time the detective closes the door and locked, and you felt very claustrophobic, and you felt like you were in the moment with these characters. And I thought he really delivered it very well. It's very well written and very well directed. The cinematography was definitely incredibly well done, very well shot. Tina Fey, which I haven't seen her act in a while, and I believe that this is the first time I've seen her in a dramatic role, because I hardly see her in a dramatic role, because she's best known to be an SNL actress. She's best known in Mean Girls, and she's best well known to be the host of the Golden Globes that she co-hosted with Amy Poehler, which I thought that both of them worked so well together. And that's pretty much what I have known her as. But I thought that the banter between him and her and the detective was great. It was very well executed. She's playing an author who is a longtime friend with Kenneth Branagh, and she wants to bring him over to be the guest of seance and try to see if everything that they're seeing is true or fake, because a lot of people get into the whole demonic and the whole medium stuff, to seeing the spiritual ghosts, but most of them are just frauds. But I thought that Michelle Yeoh's character, who's playing the medium, she really delivered it and made it so believable, and it kept us questioning, are we seeing things that are real, or is it really fake and it's just all in our heads? That was a great suspense that they really delivered, and I thought that the tension sub was so good. Yeah, it does a little bit of a slow burn at times, but it really, and when it picks up, it picks up. And the actor Jamie Dornan, if I remember his name correctly, he was from the franchise of the 50 Shades of Grey, but he was also in another Kenneth Branagh movie called Belfast, which I thought he nailed it. I thought he was such an underrated actor. The film in The Haunting in Venice, he's playing the doctor. I thought he nailed it again. The second time around with that is directed by Kenneth Branagh, I thought he was great. And I hope to see more of him in other future projects, because I thought he was a very good actor, and he just wants to get out of that shell to be known, not to be known as the guy from 50 Shades of Grey, that he's a working actor. And I really bought into the performances. Overall, this is definitely one of the better movies I've seen all year, but I won't say that this is in my top 10 or top 5 best films of the year. It's not. It's I still have some issues with it, but overall, it's a really decent film with great acting and well-written movie. And if you're someone who's willing to check this out, and you're curious to see that, if do you have to watch The Murder on the Orient Express or A Death on the Nile to understand what's going on in this movie? No, you don't really have to, because this is the standalone story, just like every other murder mystery, kind of like with Glass Onion and Knives Out. Each of them are its own standalone story, even though it is tied into the franchise. And I don't think it's a movie that you like desperately need to rush out and see it, but it's definitely a good time to watch it during the spooky season, even though it's not a big, crazy horror driven film that we are expecting going into it. Now, what did you think of The Haunting in Venice? I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you really love this movie, or did you hate it? Jump down in the comment section below and leave me your thoughts. I would love to hear your opinion on the film. And if you want to follow me on my social media platforms, the link tree will be down in the description down below, and you can check it there, where I have my TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. I'm more active on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter a little bit more. But if you want to check that out, all the link tree will be down in the description down below. And I hope you guys have a great day, a great evening, and wherever you're from. And I hope you guys stay safe. And I'm thinking about doing a lot of movie reviews for the horror movies. That some of them were old and new, and I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I might. I'm thinking about it, and I'll let you guys know when I do. And I hope you guys have a great evening. I hope you guys stay safe.